Chaos in Sydney is on the way, where commuters will have no access to any trains for 3 days. This is thanks to a major shutdown of the city's train network. Rail workers are striking after pay negotiations between the union and the New South Wales government reached another standstill. Joining me now is the New South Wales opposition leader Mark Speakman. We couldn't get Joe Haylen on or Chris Minns on the program. Not that you're the third choice, Mr. Speakman, but if I can give you a little free hit here. Whose fault is this?
Well, this is a mix of industrial terrorism by the union, ministerial incompetence from Joe Haylen, and missing in action by Chris Minns. This union can smell blood. They know that it is a weak premier, it is a weak government that is beholden to the unions. Unions like the RTPU control Labor pre-selections, they man polling booths on election day, they make donations to the Labor Party. In the case of the RTBU, about $400,000 over the last 5 years. And they control policy on the floor of the state conference. So it's a government that is beholden to unions, and this union can smell the weakness of this government, which has abandoned a wages policy, doesn't have its own wages policy. And we're now seeing industrial chaos and industrial freefall in New South Wales. It's ministerial incompetence as well. The minister appears to be out of her depth. She has not handled negotiations properly. For example, yesterday, when this crisis was reaching its worst, she has a 15-minute video conference with the union and her department. That's all she does. And the Premier has shown a failure of leadership. Where is he? He's missing in action. He doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He won't get involved, for example, in the ETU industrial action, which is crippling billions of dollars of infrastructure in New South Wales. He won't get involved in this either. He's left it to his Transport Minister. He's never seen when there's bad news. He leaves it to others to explain what's happening.
What has happened here? Did Joe Haylen need to shut down the network for 3 days? Because that's what the union said that she's done. Has she pulled a bit of an Alan Joyce here?
Well, it's pretty unclear and it's pretty confusing, and the minister needs to explain to the public exactly what has happened. When you go to the union's website, they refer to industrial action that was going to take place from 10 p.m. Thursday night through to Sunday. But it appears that the minister initially, or the Transport Department, which she runs, decided that they'd shut down the rail network sooner. So this appears to be self-inflicted to some extent by the minister.
OK, but the unions want a 32% pay rise. Is that reasonable?
No, it's outrageous. But why are they making this outrageous claim? It's because they can smell blood. They know this is a weak government beholden to the unions. They know it's a government that won't stand up to unions, and that's why they're taking this industrial action. And at the end of the day, these sorts of unions are the paymasters for the Labor Party. They control their pre-selections, they control their policy, and they control the party.
What's the problem here? So, I mean, these union threats persisted when Dominic Perrottet was Premier. At the election, you know, there was, I guess, this myth that we can now call it a myth, perpetrated that a Labor government, the unions would be more satisfied and perhaps be less bolshy about strike action. Now we've got the biggest strike on the train network that we've seen in many years. Is this a product, do you think, of removing that cap?
This is a product of Chris Minns being beholden to the unions. We're now seeing a public sector free-for-all when it comes to wages, and a union making an outrageous claim of 32%. Now, that's all very well for the 10% of people who are employed by the state government. The other 90% of people in New South Wales are doing it tough. And Chris Minns is ripping money out of hospitals, schools, police stations, infrastructure to pay for his unfunded wage promises. You know, he told the voters of New South Wales that this new wages nirvana wouldn't cost them a cent. It would all come from productivity gains. But instead what he's done is, for 2 years in a row, made real cuts to hospital and health spending. In other words, he has cut the health budget to pay for this. And we're seeing that hospital waiting times expand. And the infrastructure pipeline is going to dry up. He's all there cutting ribbons on our projects, but that pipeline is going to shrink, and we're going to see massive cuts in the coming years to roads and public transport and school building and hospital building, all because Chris Minns is beholden to the unions and can't manage the budget.
All right, we'll speak to the unions next hour. Mark Speakman, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Laura.